Artificial intelligence, or AI applications, have reached another watershed moment. We were just getting used to the way our phones recognise things they hear or see, and now, all of a sudden, we've got AI generating art, writing essays, and almost passing medical exams. This wave of generative AI tools is raising many questions for educators. Let's explore that in this module. First, we'll look at how these newer AI tools differ from previous tools already used in classrooms. We'll consider the impact and the questions raised. We'll ask, what is the best place, the best approach for these new tools? And we'll look at some specific examples of using them in a secondary English classroom.
We've seen lots of different types of artificial intelligence in the past in education, including things like speech recognition, text-to-speech, and all forms of data analytics. Some of those things have already been built into our learning management systems and other platforms. But generative AI is different. So generative AI, which can generate text and images, is built on this huge collection of data, which means that it can very realistically emulate human output. So generative text can write like a human, generative images can create very believable and compelling images, and it can do all this with great scale and speed.
We've already heard of school councils banning the use of generative AI for assignments. If an artificial intelligence can generate essays that pass automatic plagiarism tests, what does it mean for school assessment?
It is an opportunity to assess what it means to truly learn something, an opportunity to review the best ways to validate learning. We know we cannot simply roll out the same old units. We must take stock and review. We must look at our assessments and their ability to stand up to rigour. One way is a mastery approach. A mastery approach to learning distributes application over time. If a student truly knows something, it would stand up in any modality and across any time period. It would be visible in the application. As inconvenient as it is, this is an opportunity for innovation, an opportunity to redefine our assessment methodologies. I also believe that it challenges our students to be people of character. What lies behind the choice to submit plagiarised work? Is the learning engaging? Is the challenge too high? There are so many other human-to-human discussions that could be had by analysing why a student chooses to submit plagiarised work.
There's obviously been a lot in the media about artificial intelligence text generation and the possibilities of students cheating or using it to plagiarise or write their own essays. And it's definitely a worry if we stick to some of our old assessment practices. So for example, if we set an essay task as a homework and we send students away to complete that, then it is likely that some of those students will use text generation AIs to generate some of those responses. Maybe that means that we need to rethink how, when, and why we're doing some of these assessments. Perhaps bringing some of the assessments into the classroom and allowing students to work on them whilst they're in the room with us, and also changing the ways that we assess and the reasons that we're getting students to do some of that writing. So I think the bigger concerns really are around how and why we assess and the methods that we assess our students by.
When deciding how to approach the use of generative AI tools, schools and educators may choose to block the use of these tools. In this case, as far as schools are concerned, students are not to be using them at all. At the other end of the continuum, generative AI tools might be embraced uncritically. Teachers and their students may use these tools to complete tasks without understanding how they work and without reflection on the accuracy, breadth, or depth of the response.
I think that in education, we really need to try to find a middle ground between a total banning or blocking approach on the one hand and an uncritical, no-holds-barred adoption on the other. Over the next few months, we're going to see increasing numbers of applications built with generative AI, They're going to come into schools to address issues of teacher workload and efficiency, and also with students using applications for their own purposes. And we need to be mindful of who's producing those applications, which ones are useful and which ones are potentially harmful. In terms of what applications we should use in schools, I think that we really need to be open to exploring how some of these applications are going to integrate with our existing technologies. So how will generative AI become a part of word processing, our browsers, and some of our idea generation and brainstorming apps in particular? And there's a lot of potential there.
The business model of these generative tools lies in their APIs, which allow others to build applications on top of the AI model. Blocking may buy a little time, but it becomes a game of whack-a-mole that steals an incredible amount of time and resources. We also don't manage home internet or hotspots, so the effective middle ground, in my opinion, starts with a conversation. Schools can find appropriate applications for these new tools by at least creating sandbox environments. In a complex world, we learn through probing, sensing, and responding. Educators must be allowed to play with the technology to build their own digital literacy.
I think that artificial intelligence tools will definitely change teaching and learning. And one of the ways that I think it will change learning is that it could potentially, if used well, lower the bar to entry for some of our most academic subjects and some of the more complex information that we give to students. So for students who haven't in the past been able to access certain parts of the curriculum, artificial intelligence could actually make that content a lot more accessible and a lot more open to those individuals. There are many examples of how students might use generative AI in the English classroom. In fact, I think that English teachers are perfectly placed to help lead the responsible and ethical adoption of these technologies. The first thing I would encourage in the English classroom is to look at some of the ethical concerns behind AI and to use that as a discussion point. You could even bring artificial intelligence technologies into that discussion, using them almost as an extra person or somebody to bounce ideas off in the classroom. Bearing in mind that all of those answers that you get back aren't coming from a human, they are coming from that collection in the data set. So using artificial intelligence in a Socratic seminar or a discussion like a fishbowl discussion to give an extra perspective and an extra voice in the classroom. There are also obvious applications with generative AI in terms of outlining stories, outlining essays, idea generation and brainstorming. And I actually think that using image generation as a way to explore things like film technique, framing, and some of the analysis of visual language that we do in the English classroom could potentially be a really, really interesting way to use some of the generative AI.
Generative tools challenge us to be open, to have tough, rich conversations, to truly get clear on what it means to learn and how we validate that learning. I believe generative tools can help develop literacies across many domains. Digital literacy, futures literacy, information literacy, data literacy, algorithmic literacy. The list goes on. I call this being polyliterate, and I believe that the future will demand polyliterate learners.